Theodore Robert Cowell was born on November 24, 1946, at the Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers in Burlington, Vermont, to a 22-year-old single mother named Eleanor Louise Cowell. His biological father was never definitively identified. For the first 3 years of his life, Ted was raised by his grandparents in Philadelphia, where he believed that his grandparents were his parents and his mother was merely his older sister. A complicated family lie. At the age of 4, he and his mother moved to Tacoma, Washington. Louise married Johnny Bundy, a cook, and Ted took that surname. His childhood seemed ordinary on the surface. He was smart but shy, often bullied at school because of his humble family background, and envious of wealthier families, such as his cousins. Some early records indicate voyeuristic behavior as early as his teenage years. The disappearance of Anne-Marie Burr, 1961, when Ted was 14, remains a subject of speculation, though he has always denied any involvement. Ted graduated from college, was active in the Republican Party, worked for the Seattle Crime Prevention Commission, and attended law school. He appeared to be a charismatic, intelligent, and successful man, the perfect mask for a successful psychopath. According to a forensic analysis using the Hair Psychopathy Checklist Revised, PCLR, Bundy scored very high, around 35 to 39 out of 40, particularly on the interpersonal/affective factors: superficial charm, manipulative, grandiosity, lack of empathy, and lack of remorse. In the Big Five personality traits, he scored very high on extroversion, charismatic, assertive, very low on agreeableness, deceitful, callous, arrogant, high on conscientiousness, organized, meticulous, which made him difficult to catch, and low on neuroticism, calm, fearless. His primary motivation is power and control, to dominate the victim completely, including through necrophilia and mutilation rather than mere sexual gratification, based on forensic studies such as those conducted by experts like Milloy, Gacono, and PCLR analysis. No one knows for sure when Bundy began killing. According to FBI files, the first confirmed victim was Karen Sparks, 18 years old, also known as Joni Lenz, who was attacked on January 4, 1974 in Seattle. He sneaked into the victim's apartment, struck her with a lighter, raped her with a foreign object, and left her in a coma. The victim survived but suffered permanent brain damage. Just a month later, on February 1, 1974, Linda Ann Healy, 21, was abducted from her bedroom in Seattle's University District. Her bed was made, but there was blood on the pillow. Her body was found a year later on Taylor Mountain alongside the skulls of other victims, many of whom had been decapitated post-mortem. Throughout 1974, Bundy was active in Washington and Oregon. He targeted young, attractive women with long, center-parted hair, often resembling his ex-girlfriend Stephanie Brooks, who had rejected him. His methods were characteristic of an organized serial killer, pretending to be injured, a cast on his arm or a cane, asking for help loading items into his light yellow Volkswagen Beetle, striking the victim with a hammer or metal bar, abducting, raping, and killing them, usually by beating them to death, then repeatedly engaging in necrophilia at the dumping site. He often kept souvenirs, such as heads or Polaroid photos. Confirmed victims in Washington/Oregon include Donna Gail Manson, 19, Susan Elaine Rancourt, 18, Roberta Kathleen Parks, 20, Brenda Carol Ball, 22, Jorgan Hawkins, 18, Bundy admitted to decapitating her with a hacksaw and temporarily storing her head, as well as Janice Ott, 23, and Denise Naslund, 19, who were abducted at Lake Sammamish State Park on July 14, 1974, in front of hundreds of people within just a few hours. Bundy confessed to about 11 victims in this area, including several unidentified ones, according to his final confession. In the fall of 1974, Bundy moved to Salt Lake City to attend law school at the University of Utah. The killings continued. Nancy Wilcox, 16, Melissa Smith, 17, the police chief's daughter, Laura Amy, 17, and Deborah Kent, 17. On November 8, 1974, he attempted to kidnap Carol Daronch, 18, at a mall by posing as a police officer. The victim managed to escape and provided a description and license plate number that led to Bundy. August 1975, arrested for the first time in Utah for suspicious items in his car: handcuffs, rope, a ski mask, a crowbar, as documented in the FBI vault files. In 1976, he was convicted of the Daronch kidnapping. While awaiting trial for the murder of Corinne Campbell in Colorado, he escaped twice. First escape, June 7, 1977. From the Pitkin County Courthouse Law Library in Aspen, Colorado, he jumped from a second-story window about 30 feet, injuring his leg, and hid in the mountains for 6 days before being recaptured. Second escape, December 30th, 1977. At the Garfield County Jail in Glenwood Springs, he lost about 30 pounds, slipped through a small hole in the cell ceiling, crawled through a cable shaft, exited through a guard's apartment, then flew to Chicago and eventually to Florida. He was free for 46 days. In Tallahassee, in the early hours of January 15, 1978, Bundy sneaked into the Chi Omega sorority house through a broken back door. Using a piece of wood from a firewood pile, he beat and strangled Margaret Bowman, 21, and Lisa Levy, 20, to death, and severely injured Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner. Both survived despite sustaining serious injuries such as broken jaws and skulls. A few blocks away, he attacked Cheryl Thomas, 23. This attack was more brutal and less premeditated than the previous ones, according to an FBI analysis. Just 3 weeks later, on February 9, 1978, he abducted Kimberly Leach, 12, from her middle school in Lake City, the youngest confirmed victim. Her body was found at Suwannee River State Park, February 15, 1978, arrested in Pensacola while driving a stolen car. He put up a struggle.
I appreciate your patience, your honor. However, the accusations made against me are simply incorrect.
In the Florida courtroom, Bundy became a media sensation. He represented himself, came across as charming, and even married Carol Ann Boone in the courtroom. They had a daughter. He was sentenced to death 3 times, twice for the Chi Omega murders and once for the murder of Kimberly Leach. During his years on death row, he was manipulative. It wasn't until January 20th to 22nd, 1989, that he spoke more openly with Detective Robert Keppel, King County, and FBI agent Bill Hagmaier. In that confession, documented in recordings in Keppel's book, The Riverman, Bundy specifically admitted to 30 victims, 11 in Washington, 8 in Utah, 3 in Colorado, 3 in Florida, 2 in Oregon, and 2 in Idaho, some unidentified. He hinted at a higher number, When the figure of 36 was mentioned, he said, "Add 1 digit to that." He described the urge as an entity within him, admitted to decapitating about half a dozen victims with a hacksaw and engaging in repeated necrophilia. However, he maintained control over the narrative, often providing only partial information. On January the 24th, 1989, at 7:06 a.m., Bundy was executed by electric chair, Old Sparky, at Florida State Prison. He declined a last meal, prayed with a pastor, and his final words, as reported by the Los Angeles Times and the Washington Post, were, "Jim and Fred, I'd like you to give my love to my family and friends," addressed to attorney Jim Coleman and pastor Fred Lawrence. He was pronounced dead at 7:16 a.m. Outside the prison, thousands of people celebrated with shouts of "Burn, Bundy, burn!" fireworks and cheers as the hearse drove out. His body was cremated, and his ashes were scattered in the Cascade Range, Washington, in accordance with his will. The Bundy case became a classic study for the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit on an organized, mobile, antisocial serial killer, calculating, charming, and capable of hiding darkness behind the face of a successful man. His victims, college students, schoolgirls, ordinary young women like Linda, Donna, Susan, Jorgen, Janice, Denise, Margaret, Lisa, and Kimberly, were taken too soon by the manipulation and cruelty of a psychopath. This narrative is entirely based on factual data without sensationalism, with details drawn directly from FBI vault files and official FBI articles. Serial Killers, Part 3, Ted Bundy's Campaign of Terror. Final Confessions to Robert Keppel and Bill Hagmaier. January 1989 recordings, including transcripts in the book The Riverman. Florida Court Records. Victim timelines from biography.com, ABC News, and the True Crime Database. Hare PCL-R, and Big Five Psychological Analyses from Forensic Studies. Whittaker, Malloy, Gacono et al. Execution reports from the Los Angeles Times, Washington Post, and HistoryLink.org, 1989. May this more complete story help shed light on just how dangerous the psychopathy hidden behind a charismatic smile can be. His victims are not merely numbers, they are lives cut short. A secret-filled beginning. Childhood and the formation of a dark soul. The truth in this case may have come to light, but not all questions have been fully answered. And as we know, every ending is often just the beginning of another story. So, if you want to keep exploring this dark side together, hit subscribe, like, and share, because the next story might be closer than you think. Thank you.
I see everything. I know what you desire.